Dr. Cloud. Thank you so much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. I really enjoyed the talk that you gave at CCV over this past weekend, so I definitely appreciate that as well.
Oh, you were at you were there. Okay, I see where you're from now. How about that? What a fun group that was. You know,
Yeah, that was really good.
is that online, by the way?
I watched it online. I've actually never gone inside of a CCV. I go to another local Christian church as well, but it's fun to be able to jump around and watch a few different services on the weekend that I wouldn't normally be able to.
Okay, can I just give them a plug because I think people may be able to go online and see this. But this was just such a great example. You know, we hear so many people griping about churches and well, I don't believe in organized religion and all of this, and they're all hypocrites and all this. You know what? There are so many great churches out there, and I just want to tell you about this one that she's talking about, and then I'll get to your question, Erica. They in CCV is Christ Church of the Valley, right? Is the name of it?
Yes.
I always get an acronyms mixed up. So here's what they did. There's a mental health crisis in America, and it's been going on a while. A big one. Opioids got everybody's attention, but a lot of other stuff. And we got people hurting out there. And now during COVID, normally we would have maybe 20% of the population that's maybe diagnosable in depression, anxiety, addictions, or some kind of category. We are up to over 40% of Americans saying that they have enough pain that we could call it clinically diagnosable in anxiety and depression, addictions, all the stuff in the midst of this pandemic. Over 40%. That's almost every other one of us. So here's what this church did. They dedicated a month to going out and fighting this war, trying to help people that are hurting. And not just mentally ill. And I said, you can go watch the sermon I preached there, not just where I tell my own story as well. It's not just people in a rubber room or an institution somewhere. We're talking about mental illness. We're talking about all of us, right? Because you're talking about mood disorders, anxiety, stress, addictions. We're all kind of somewhere in there. Some people have to get some significant treatment, but all of us need help in life. This church dedicated a month to this and brought in 4 different experts to talk about it. Well, they brought 3 experts and me, but they 4 different weeks. And then guess what they did? And this is what I want to salute them for. You talk about bright shining stars for churches. They raised, I don't know. You know what? I probably shouldn't say the number because they tell me the number. You would not believe, maybe unless they announced it, an insane amount of money. An insane amount of money. To do what? Anybody in that area in Phoenix, anybody that would text in and say they needed help, this church would pay for your first 10 sessions with a psychologist on the money they raised to go help people struggling. Awesome. Reaching the communities. And what I told them, and that one of the things I said in that sermon is, every one of us can do this because this isn't people in an institution. This is people in the cubicle next to you at work. This is your sister-in-law. This is your cousin. This is your best friend. It may be the person you see when you look in the mirror, that all of us might find ourselves struggling. And let's all do our part to reach out and help people because everybody's hurting right now. So anyway, thank you, Erika, for reminding me of last Sunday. Now,
you're welcome.
How can I help you?
Sure. So I had kind of just a question about co-parenting. So I have really bad communication with my son's dad. My son is 12. So we don't get along, to be honest with you, which I'm sure is, the case for a lot of people, but we really don't get along. We don't have good communication. The problem that I have with him is that a lot of times...
Wait, what is your status? Y'all are divorced?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, we were never married, but my son is 12. We haven't been together in over a decade. So definitely been a very, very long time that we
Okay.
have been, not together. And he's with someone else now and everything. And but
But do you
but yeah.
have joint custody? Is there an arrangement? Is it structured? How does it work?
Yes, I do have a court order, so I have sole custody. He has visitation. He only sees him every other Saturday. He has had some past like incarceration issues, things like that,
Oh,
where I felt like some trust was broken and things like that. But anyway, so he only sees him every Saturday, and I do honestly feel bad about that. That it's not enough time. My son doesn't think it's enough time, and I do feel bad about that. But I do still have some, lingering issues with trusting him and his influence and things like that. But um and right now he won't even tell me where he lives, so I don't let my son go overnight or anything like that because he won't give me his new address.
well,
But
yeah, that would. I mean, it seems like wouldn't the court structure that in a better way than that? Like you got to have an address where your kid's going to be.
so he always uses his parents' address, so he has not changed it with the courts. And he won't provide it to me. He even had my
Right, but
son lie.
that's information that if you went back to court and got everything structured well, that the court would hear.
Right. So, I mean, I can't really enforce it unless we go back to court. And
Right.
I'm not super in favor of going back, especially right now during COVID.
Okay.
I don't know, but
All
it's
right.
something
That's
I
fine.
could definitely pursue. Yeah. But the other problem that I'm having though is, besides it not, it's kind of making my son be a little deceitful. But besides that, the problem I'm having is he tries to make parenting arrangement schedules like with my son. So he'll tell him to like, oh, you're welcome anytime. Oh, you should come over, on this date or, things like that. And if I say no to my son, then it becomes like this area of resentment. And my son and I get into a fight about it. And this has been going on for at least a couple of years where I've asked him to please stop trying to schedule this time with my son because it just creates a conflict for me because it causes my son to act out. And, my son has cried and said how he feels like he's been being put in the middle between us. And I feel super, super bad
Which he
about
is.
that. And I tell my
Yeah,
son,
which he is.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying not to like mess up my son too badly here, but it's just very difficult. His dad and I are just completely at odds. I can't tell him anything about how school is going, about a sport that he might be joining without just stirring up some sort of conflict. I really don't know how to deal with his dad at all.
Okay. So, well, it sounds like it. I mean, it sounds like the way you describe it, his dad is, I'm going to make up a word. His dad is undealable with, right? You can't deal with
Yeah,
him.
I just feel like he's very unreasonable. Yeah, I feel like it's
Yeah.
very unreasonable, but I just want to protect my son as best as I can.
Right.
Because this is, hurting him and putting him in the middle. I've blocked communication after so many times of asking him to stop. I did block him from my son's cell phone. So
Yeah.
communication has to go through my phone.
What are the dangers of your son spending time with his dad?
Well, I mean, I think everything's okay now that my son's older. We did this plan, about 6 years ago now. And at that time, I felt like he was in a bit more danger. I mean, he hasn't done anything to kids or anything like that, but there was some drug use, there was some, sexual assaults and things like that. So,
Wow. There's
I
drugs
mean,
in the house?
he used to, use marijuana pretty
No,
regularly.
no, I'm talking
Nothing
about,
like
okay.
harder.
So you put up these limits. Did the courts know about this when they said twice a month?
Yeah, so it was supposed to be supervised visitation previously. So it was supervised
Okay.
visitation by his
And
parents, and it's only
that
from 10
hasn't
a.m. to
changed.
6 p.m.
But that hasn't
I
changed.
have been I have been more lenient since he had moved back to his
No,
parents'
no,
house.
no,
I
no, no,
kind of
no.
was more
Stop, stop, stop,
lenient.
stop, 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 stop. No, has it
Uh-huh.
changed? Has the agreement changed? Has the
No, I'm sorry. No, it
legal
has not. So
Okay, so y'all are in an unstructured land where he doesn't really think there's any rules anyway. Because according to the
true.
last time y'all had an agreement, this was the agreement. So he's already, see, y'all have a tacit agreement here. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but this is the way you're operating is he doesn't think there's any rules, right? That he has to stick to. Because the last time They were different than they are now. You follow me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think what I would do, first of all, before you try to find an answer to this, um, I would sit down with your son, and he's what, 12 years old now,
Yes.
and I'd kind of get a really, really good read on him, and kind of, so tell me, when you spend time with your dad, because I want you to have a good relationship with your dad. I really want that, son. When you spend time with him, tell me about it. What goes on over there? What do y'all do? How do you spend your time? Who else is there? What's it like? All of that. I would try to get as close to your son as possible about the topic of what's it like to be with dad. Okay. And I would do that on
Okay.
an information gathering way, but you're also bonding with him. And now you're together on the same side of the table, not opposite sides of the table fighting about it. You're together on the same side of the table because you've already told him your goal. Your goal is that you want him to have as much time with his dad as possible. Okay. That's what you want. I mean, you want
Okay.
him to have a good relationship. But I'd really try to get to understand what it's like now. And I would tell him, the way the courts gave your dad twice a month and supervised with my parents. And that was for some reasons. There were things going on that weren't good, that I don't want you around. They're dangerous. Okay. Now, since then, a few things have changed. And our old agreement, we haven't been sticking to, first of all, and our old agreement may not fit. What I need to know is what's safe for you and what isn't, and what's good for you, because I care about you. And so I'm really open to listening to you and what you want, and this, that, and the other, and trying to understand it. Okay, now if you can get to that place where you do get comfortable, the drugs are gone, all this kind of stuff is gone, things are okay, things are safe. Then at that point, what you might want to do is really want to surprise his dad and say, you know what? I'm open to restructuring our agreement because our son's becoming a teenager, and this is a time where it would be good for him to have as much of a dad as possible, as long as things are okay. But I wouldn't try to make this
Okay.
decision. I wouldn't try to make this decision without as strong a bond as I could have around this topic with your son, and as much information as possible. And I would, as much as you hate it, at least talk to a family attorney about how hard would it be, what would it really take to let's renegotiate this thing now that the drugs, sex, and rock and roll are out of the picture, and because your parents are not watching them anyway, let's get something we can stick to, because then everybody can be on the same page with an agreement that everybody's supposed to stick to, and then you can cry foul when it's violated. Right now it's hard to cry foul because the whole thing's being
Okay.
violated anyway. Okay. But bond with your kid
Okay.
around the goal. But again, I'm going to empower you again here. You still are in charge. You're the mom, you're the guardian. You got to protect him. Let's just find out what he needs protection from and make an agreement that fits that. It may be more severe than it is
Okay.
now. We don't know, but we got to find out. Okay. Sorry, I got to
Okay.
run.
That
We're
makes
up
sense.
against the clock,
No,
but
you're good.
thank you. And God bless you for continuing to care about your kid and trying to work this out. Oh my gosh, parenting is so hard when two people are on the same page. How hard is it when things are difficult? And how hard is it when one person uh, is on their own page? I want to talk 1 second to any co parents out there. Remember, the kid is the most important one in this story. What they need, various times of their lives, what they way it's got to be structured. Sometimes they need more of one parent than the other, depending on when and why and who brings what to the party, and different ages and different times. Really, really important. And by the way, Erica, I know you're not still there, but I'm going to say this to you. The structure and the court agreement, all that's really important. The best thing you can have for your son is to get him around some really, really good, male role models, some youth pastors who tend to save people's lives, kids' lives all the time, some teachers, some coaches, maybe an uncle here or there. That's the best thing you can do, because then he's going to see what good looks like, and then he can recognize what bad looks like. Kids can't recognize what bad looks like if they're not immersed in goodness. And kids will choose with their hearts, they will choose to love people that are good and treat them well, and they look up to and respect, and that'll give them some ways to figure out, I want to be like them. I don't want to be like that if they have a dad that's, using drugs or something like that. So that's really, really important in this scenario.